What's up, y'all? The Republican convention wrapped up last night, and the only convention that matters starts tonight. So I've got yet another YDSA NCC candidate here with me today, David Lefebvre. Um, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you seek to sit in the big chair, David.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Um, yeah, I mean a little bit about myself. I sort of got radicalized in 2020, um, given the pandemic, Black Lives Matter uprisings, sort of climate disasters in the Pacific Northwest, um, and then the following year on campus when I went to University of Oregon, I joined our YDSA chapter. Um, and our YDSA chapter didn't have a steering committee. It didn't really have any active campaigns. It was like less than 10 people in terms of membership. Um, and over the past 4 years, and very involved in leadership, I've helped led the sort of the largest DSA unionization. DSA sort of originated unionization drive with the U.S. Student Workers Union, which is a wall-to-wall union, so it includes a bunch of undergrad student workers as well as a handful of graduate student workers on campus, and so that's sort of the sort of primary experience that I have within YDSA organizing is labor work, um, because it's taken like around 2 years to get our union certified, and then I've also done a lot of work in terms of managing the affiliation process with the United Auto Workers, which we're really happy to be a part of. And then most recently, we were able to win open bargaining and started bargaining with the University of Oregon administration. Um, and so I'm really happy to have been a rank and file leader within this process and really pushing for the sort of socialist values of militant rank and file and democratic led unionism. Aside from my labor work, I've also was an elected steering committee member of our University of Oregon Palestine Solidarity Encampment. And we were, because of our orientation and the amount of sort of coalition building that we had going into it, as well as the solid YDSA chapter sort of mass orientation, we were able to win significant concessions from the university, including a ceasefire statement, including scholarships for displaced Palestinians, boycotting Sabra Hummus on campus in the dining halls, um, as well as creating a Southwest Asian and North African Studies program. And there's a handful of other smaller details that we want in our concession. But I think that sort of focus on local organizing really qualifies me to jump up and lead on the national level, as someone who has led a handful of successful campaigns while simultaneously building up a YDSA chapter to now have like several dozen really solid organizers and around like 60 members. And so on national leadership, I really want to emphasize um, connection between national and locals with mentorship, and making sure that chapters are taking on these ambitious campaigns that people previously didn't think were possible for a YDSA chapter to take on. And importantly, taking on ambitious campaigns that engage with masses of working class students, be it Palestine or labor campaigns. And so I think that building this really strong base is sort of a precondition for us to really move forward as an organization.
Okay. That's very impressive. That's certainly a lot more than what I did at university. Like when I was in college, basically, like I was a hardcore Maoist. Well, I still am, but we did not engage whatsoever with the administration of the university. Like we were basically sort of Maoist anarchists. I guess you could call it mouse spontex, but like graffiti, wheat pasting expeditions at 3 a.m. and stuff like that. And I mean, that stuff is fun if you're like 18, 19, 20 years old. But like, as you develop politically, it's important to realize that, hey, maybe this stuff isn't doing anything. Maybe we're just like trying to convince ourselves that we're more revolutionary than everybody else. And like, what gains have we actually accomplished through any of this? So it's really good that younger comrades are not making the mistake that I guess you could say like my generation of Maoists made, like no engagement whatsoever with those who are in power. Of course, it still has to be like an oppositional thing, like, hey, yeah, fuck you, but this is what we want. This is what's going to happen if we don't get what we want. And these are our tactics. So it's good to see people like developing after the Ferguson era. So it's based.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed about every YDSA NCC candidate that I've interviewed is that like all of you guys are actually like engaged with the Palestinian solidarity movement. That sort of puts the lie to the assertions of a lot of our more rightist comrades within DSA that none of this matters. Like the encampments don't matter. None of this matters. Like, no, these are basically schools of struggle. This is how people are learning how to be real communists. And like, that's how we all learn. That's how Mao said that we learn. We learn through practice. We don't learn through Twitter arguments. We don't learn through phone banking and all of this such nonsense. And no, I'm not opposed to the tactic of phone banking, but a lot of people seem to think that is the sum total of the revolution. And one thing that I've noticed over the past couple of days is that there is a very strong pacifist trend within DSA. So I made this post on the 16th, 3 days ago. It basically says like, this is basic common knowledge. If you're a leftist and you are mentally and physically capable of possessing a firearm, you need to do so. You also need to get with and work with other leftists who have done so. Join an SRA or a John Brown gun club. Did I say that if you are prone to suicidal ideation that you should have a firearm? No, I did not. That's part of the mentally capable. Did I say that if you are physically disabled and you cannot physically pull a trigger that you should have a firearm? Absolutely not. Am I trying to turn DSA into a paramilitary organization? No, I am not. But what I am saying is that if our comrades are as concerned about the looming threat of fascism, of course, as a Black person, I would say that fascism has always been here following Brother George Jackson. But if you are so concerned, like, you should be taking measures to protect yourself and your comrades. If you oppose the presence of firearms in your organizing, then it seems to me that you're really not all that concerned about your life. And like, am I saying that you should just go and buy an AR or an AK and just like march around your college campus with it? Of course not, because you'll be arrested. Most college campuses do not take kindly to guns. But like, within the context of the law in the state, the city in which you live, you should be trying to arm yourself. And of course, I had this jabroni, socialism done left. I don't know why this guy keeps trying to talk to me like a comrade when it's obvious that I despise him. Like, I don't know. I was raised that like, if somebody fucking hates you, you don't try to talk to them. But this guy's like, oh, hey, BRG. It's good for leftists to get organized, but Panthers guns barely slowed the FBI in arresting Panther leadership. Okay, the reason that the Panthers had guns was not to like literally try to overthrow the state tomorrow. That was not going to happen. I don't know why people seem to think that Black people are stupid or we need white people's advice. But the purpose that the Panthers armed themselves was towards educating Black people on the need to arm ourselves as a mass and overthrow the system that has enslaved our ancestors and continues to fuck us up. That was the purpose. And yes, there were ultra-left deviations. There was Cleaverite nonsense that took place. There was stupidity. There was a lot of lumpen shit. That's who they oriented towards. Like if you read the ideology of the Black Panther Party that was written by that asshole Eldridge Cleaver, whose name I hate speaking, he literally considers the working class to be the right wing of the proletariat, and he considers the lumpen to be the left wing. Of course, that line was garbage. It was demonstrably garbage. It led to a lot of dumb shit happening. But that was the context of the time period in which they organized, in which they lived. So there's this really good book by Charles Cobb. I am going to be recommending this a lot. It's called That Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed. It's how guns made the civil rights movement possible. So what's it about? Well, it's basically right there in the title. This nonviolent stuff will get you killed. So I highly recommend any of our DSA comrades who have a more pacifist outlook on this question to read Brother Cobb's book, because it's literally about how guns made the civil rights movement possible. Like, a lot of people don't know what happened in the fucking South. Like, you were not just going to go down there and start registering black people to vote because the Klan was there. The Klan was the police. So if you went down there and they knew that you were an outsider, because these small towns are all inbred, they knew who the black people were that are from this town, and they know who the white people are that are from this town. So if somebody like you or me showed up down there, David, we probably wouldn't go very well, because they could tell that we're fucking Yankees. We don't have Southern accents. So they would follow us around, and yeah, that's what happened to Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner. And Cheney was actually from down there. Goodman and Schwerner were Jewish comrades from New York. So they all ended up getting killed and buried in a dam. And to stop shit like this happening, like, the black people in the South already had guns. And a lot of these pacifist Northern kids that went down there, they're like, why do you all have all these guns? And they're like, we're going to show y'all why we have all these guns. Because when the night riders come, and they're going to come, we're not just going to let our house be burned down. We're not going to let our guests be murdered. That's against Southern hospitality. So it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. Matter of fact, I recommend it so much, I'm going to put it in the chat. You all should stop fucking watching my bald head and read a book sometimes.
That's probably good advice for a lot of folks on Twitter.
What was the last book you read, David?
The last book I read was, actually, I have it right over here. It's Revolutionary Syndicalism in France. Then the next one is 100 Years War in Palestine by Rashid Khalid.
There's another book I recommend. It's about Italians. I understand that they're you guys' mortal enemies, but it's called Strike One to Educate 100. It's about the Brigade Rossi. Here, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting Twitter debate. I usually don't get myself too involved in Twitter debates, and I'm pretty new to the platform in general. But I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes it's like being armed and having a gun, I think, is a tactic that in general shouldn't really be the focus of our movement, but I think is important. I don't know. I think it's important for folks to arm themselves, especially on the left, given the history of the left, especially in a lot of countries where folks have been slaughtered, like you said, like in Indonesia, for example. But I don't think that the focus of our organizing at all should be on, getting trained as like a paramilitary group. Of course, we should be oriented.
I agree.
At action. And I think your example of the civil rights movement, I think there's an interesting sort of dual purpose. Like, it's a tactic to be a pacifist. And I think there's a time and place to be a pacifist, and there's a time and place to be armed, and use your arms for self-defense purposes. But I think where we are right now in the struggle, I think, I mean, from my experience, non-violent struggle is where the masses are, and I think that is where we're able to build mass organizations is currently through non-violent struggle. That doesn't mean that you arm yourself and be prepared, but I don't think that should really be anyone's focus at the moment if they're like serious about building towards socialism.
Yeah, and like it seems to be like a very uncharitable reading. Like nobody on the left, like if you actually know any leftist gun owners, none of us is saying that you should get a gun and you should go do something with it right now. Like if you come across somebody that's talking like that, they are a cop or an idiot. Either way, you do not need to be around them.
Yeah,
But like it just like some people are saying like no weapons around whatsoever, and that's just stupid to me. Like that flies in the face of everything that we know about Black history and everything that we know about the history of colonized people in the United States. So I mean it's a line struggle that's happening. It's going to happen.
mm,
But it's good that it's being carried out in a well, it hasn't been carried out in an entirely principled fashion. Somebody called me a fucking misogynist yesterday or implied that I supported like, oh, if people abuse people, yes, people abuse people with guns. Okay, if you're a bad person, I am not saying that you should have a gun. But like somebody said that all men should be disarmed. I'm like, oh wow, that's very carceral of you. Thank you, wise white woman. But yeah,
yeah,
people need to be like
I think
dialectical about this type of thing.
it's
Like,
tough when a lot of the Twitter discourse is like not very comradely, not very sincere, and is just trying
of
to like
course not.
be like
It's
gotcha.
Twitter. Everybody
Um,
wants to dunk.
but yeah, I don't know. I haven't been following all of the discourse. I definitely think that in terms of like leftist spaces where folks are arming themselves to um, make sure to not be actively not being like macho about it, and I think that there can be
That's a
a
big problem.
element
That's a
of like
really big problem.
in terms of like left spaces where men specifically are very drawn towards this um armed and like sort of violent.
I mean, that was a
um
problem in the Black Panther Party too. Like, it
yeah,
was so bad at one point. Like, basically, the idea was that I mean, this wasn't an idea, but this was the practice. Like the women, they do the work to run the free food program. They do the clerical work. They staff the office. Basically, all the shit that keeps the fucking party going. And the dudes that sit around jacking off the guns. Like that can't happen. And I've seen this happen in a lot of left groups. Like you make the women do all the fundraising, or you make the non-binary people, you make the queer people, you make the basically non-male presenting people do all the fucking grunt work, yet it's the work that makes y'all popular. And meantime, you think you're fucking Rambo out there at the shooting range. It's good to
yeah,
be at the shooting range, but you also need to learn how to do the type of work that you think. Like you have to break down the gender contradiction. Like we're not here to enslave our non-male comrades. We're not here to basically just sit around and wait for a day that may never come, but convince ourselves that we're more revolutionary than everybody else because we know how to because our grouping is real good. But this guy, this is the opposite end of the thing. Like he's saying that never understood leftist gun nuts insisting an armed proletariat is a necessary condition for revolution. An armed proletariat is a necessary condition for revolution. Like, did Karl Marx not say, under no pretext should workers surrender arms and ammunition? In most revolutions, a decisive factor is a section of the military and security forces breaking from the old regime. No, that's only been, well, first of all, that's a coup. And people, he's obviously talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, but the Bolshevik Revolution was actually the product of 20, almost 30 years of organizing. And yes, there was an armed proletariat. They were called they like those were the original Red Guards. Like
mm,
what did the defection of junior officers and rank and file conscripts from the horrible front lines. Like most of these people didn't even have shoes or ammunition for their guns. All they had was bayonet charges and sabers, which was not a very good time. I mean, this is World War One. I don't know about you, David. Would you go and like you're fighting the fucking Germans and they have machine guns and all other types of shit, and you got a bayonet? Would you jump over a trench and go charge them? I wouldn't.
yeah, I don't think that's wise.
Yeah. So this guy basically wants us to join the imperialist U.S. military and spread socialist ideology among junior officers. So he's already displaying his absolute lack of knowledge about the makeup of the U.S. military, because most of these people are from military families and are not going to become communists just because you're fucking talking. Like Aaron Bushnell was not an officer. Most of the rebellion from the military um, has come from enlisted. It hasn't come from officers. The officers have every reason to smash dissent.
Mm.
Of
Yeah.
course, the fantasy of an armed revolution for these people is just a version of the standard right wing gun. That's armed revolution. And like, I don't know. And these people are always caught by surprise when shit happens because they're so arrogant they think they know everything. Like when the fascists roll up to your socialist picnic or canvassing day and start mowing everybody down, you might be grateful for a few comrades that are carrying. I'm just saying. I want guns as far away as possible from any org I'm a part of. Then you better be ready to get fucking shot, bro. Because when Trump gets reelected, like these people that are coming to play, they're seeking revenge. They think that the woke mob is responsible for their colleagues that stormed the Capitol being locked up. They think that we're trying to literally destroy the country. I mean, to be fair, we are. But like, yeah, like you have to get ready for these fucking people. And I'm not saying that we need to react to them, no. But you have to realize what type of people that you're dealing with. These people have no qualms about murdering people. No, we are not blanquists. How do you pronounce that guy's name? Blanco.
Blanquiste.
Blanquist. See, I took Spanish. I didn't take French.
Yeah. Yeah. I could ask my family members. They would probably know better than me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it comes in handy in occasion. Again, it's not the most important thing to focus on. But in Eugene, actually, when there was a Palestine protest, I wasn't at this one, but this right wing nut job in a truck like swerved in front of the march and jumped out with like a mask and like it was a fake gun, but you couldn't tell that it was a fake gun, and he pointed it at the crowd. And then there were two like socialists that were like concealed carried, and they like immediately just like sort of like pulled up and made him like get onto the ground and stop immediately. So I don't know. There's occasions of what of like principled and serious socialists who are armed at being helpful, but I don't think that it's like, I don't know. It's definitely not my focus in terms of organizing, and um yeah, there's of course reasons why people who are leftists don't want to get armed, and that's fine, you know. So
yeah. What do you think about the whole? How do you feel about being like? How do you feel about being in the same camp? Well, I guess I'm in the same camp too. Basically, the camp of people who want Biden to drop out. How do you feel that we're in the same camp as Nancy Pelosi and Bernie and AOC actually want Biden to stay in? Like this is like a bizarre world.
It's definitely flipping the world upside down a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah, there's sometimes politicians take stances where I'm not quite sure why they're doing what they're doing, but I don't know. Like, especially with politicians like Nancy Pelosi, I'm sure there's a bunch of other factors that are
Yeah.
going through their head that um you know, we can't predict. But I think I think a lot of this is just sort of shocking. Of course, I think all of YDSA really wants Biden to step down, and it's really him not doing so is really um
I mean, it's just another display of his arrogance. Like this
um
is, yeah.
but
I don't know.
in terms of AOC and Bernie, I think it shows that in YDSA and DSA we need um a stronger like red line and electoral discipline of our candidates, people that we have like endorsed. Of course, both of them aren't endorsed at this point, but they were at one point, and DSA chapters have put a lot of work into helping both Bernie and AOC. So I think that our line is that we need candidates that are actually accountable to our movement, to our mass movement, to the DSA if we're putting a lot of electoral effort behind it. And ideally, we would have DSA members themselves, cadre candidates who are running, so that we already have this established relationship, and it's not just a one-sided, we're helping them and then they do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, because that's essentially what's been happening. Like, I'm not okay with like myself and other left-wing comrades going out providing slave labor for these people, knocking on doors. Well, to be fair, I haven't canvassed for Cory Bush once this year. My STL comrades are probably seething mad at me. Like, okay, BRG, so you can go fucking fly to DC to protest NATO, and you can live stream every other day, but you can't come knock on doors.
Did you not respect your Twitter poll? Did people tell you to canvass or not?
I believe they did. I don't listen to people on Twitter. They don't know my life. So, Yemen, the ever-present Houthis, actually succeeded in hitting Tel Aviv with a suicide drone. Pretty base. This was like 100 meters away from the U.S. consulate.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's pretty big. That was a pretty big drone.
What's the reaction?
The Israelis are shitting their diapers, and Yemen was like, yeah. And if you keep doing what you're doing and you don't leave Palestine the fuck alone, then this is just a foretaste of what you're going to receive. There was actually a speech that was given by one of their military officials yesterday, basically taking credit for it.
مظلومية الشعب الفلسطيني ومجاهديه وردا على مجازر العدوان الإسرائيلي
Oh, come on.
بحق إخواننا في غزة. نفذ سلاح الجو المسير في القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية نوعية تمثلت في استهداف أحد الأهداف المهمة في منطقة يافا المحتلة ما يسمى إسرائيليا تل أبيب، وقد نفذت العملية بطائرة مسيرة جديدة اسمها يافا.
So they've literally developed a drone that can bypass their radars and also bypass the Iron Dome. So I imagine we'll be seeing a lot more of this this fancy little device in the coming weeks and months. I mean, all they have to do is do what they're asked. That's all they have to do. Stop the genocide. And like you've also got the ultra-Orthodox, the Haredim, that are rioting in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and other cities where they're present. And like this country is pulling itself apart. I saw the other day this lady killed her son. I think she beheaded a security guard or something. Then she sat down in like this yoga meditation pose. Like, this country is pulling itself the fuck apart. It's got big fall of Saigon energy. People are leaving. Like one of the Israeli cabinet officials was like begging people not to leave the country. So like, bro, we're getting bombed every day, and I don't want to be drafted and sent to Gaza to do horrible shit. Like, fuck you. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I mean, for YDSA to continue putting pressure via like trying to win BDS demands. I think that's like the most important pressure that we could be pushing for in the US and making sure that we're really trying to push for the US to stop supplying arms to Israel. Because without the US support, of course, there would be a pretty immediate end to the genocide. So I think that
the Houthis are reactionaries funded by a theocratic regional superpower. Even if that was true, I don't think the Palestinian people care that much. Maybe when you get drones and you start hitting Tel Aviv, maybe they'll give a fuck what you think. Like it always kills me. Like Americans, theocratic. They're bad. They had a bad take on a position in 1990. Who gives a shit? Go outside. Damn. Like, there's nothing satisfies you people. Like, they're funded by Iran. Who cares? These people are being genocided, and all you can think about is being right in my fucking Twitch chat. Go outside. Damn. This is what I was talking about, David. Like this, she's got blood on her. This lady murdered her son, murdered a security guard. Now she's just sitting down in this Zen meditation pose. I don't think anybody can match that level of freak.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
It's very disturbing. Oh, Portland SRA is going to be tabling at the Fesh Free Fest and also hosting a Nerf battle. That sounds fun. So, to the Republican convention. Kid Rock was there. Did you see? Are you a Kid Rock fan, David?
Not particularly, no.
This is like the Republican version of that AOC Bowman Bernie rally in the Bronx. Like, it looks like there's maybe 50 people watching this.
Fun.
Detroit City back on the map, taking Trump. Kick rocks in the house, that's where I'm at. Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States and the most American badass to ever walk the earth, President Donald J.
It's so shitty it stopped.
Yeah. Republican.
This is like a fucking wrestling entrance. Yeah, Hulk Hogan was there. This is it's like fucking 1998. That's what I guess. I guess that's what we could call it. But there were also protests outside the RNC. Jill Stein.
Here at the
Jill Stein, I have respect for because she was baptized by fire. Like she got the leftist baptism by fire. She actually came to St. Louis and got arrested.
RNC nor at the DNC. This is a political system that represents the, the oligarchs and the war machine.
So the Green Party, it faces a tough time with ballot access, right? And the major party system always seems to synchronize in terms of making ballot access difficult, making ranked choice voting difficult, etc. Can you talk about some of the challenges that those are faced?
Some of the what?
Some of the challenges.
Oh, yeah. So the DNC announced way back in March that they were hiring an army of lawyers to throw their competitors off the ballot. This is the Democratic Party that claims to be defending democracy. They're destroying democracy, supposedly, in order to...
I heard some of our DSA comrades were out there. I was expecting to say an army of mercenaries like the old days. But what do you think of Jill Stein, David?
Jill Stein? I mean, I don't know. I think that the Green Party is not in a position to seriously threaten the two-party movement. So, I mean, I think the most important work that we can be doing is through building up winning campaigns, building up a larger base, and importantly, building the connection between organized labor and building organized labor, and connecting it with these progressive and radical movements, be it the Palestine movement, be it DSA. And I think that we need to have this really large mass base that connects to sources of power like organized labor to be able to really push and sort of surpass the Democratic Party in a way that I think the Green Party is not really seriously threatening. So yeah, I think the connection to organized labor, I think, is like a socialist analysis that the Green Party doesn't really have. And I think that we're sort of moving in that direction. I mean, even the UAW with its like UC ULP strikes for Palestine, I think that has been like a really impactful thing that I've seen in terms of sort of merging the organized labor movement with the Palestine movement and sort of connecting labor and progressive social issues.
Mm. Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like some people will also say that DSA, they either say that like we're a puppet front for the Democrats. Was like, look, here's the thing: the best way to understand DSA is to join DSA. Like I used to have the same position. I was like, oh, these people are full of shit. They're a bunch of weak ass hipsters. But since joining, I came to the realization that this is actually a place that communists could work. I mean, I've said that our main thing right now is struggling to displace some of the rightists that have entrenched themselves in positions of power and have alienated us from our Palestinian comrades. Well, not just our Palestinian comrades, but like a lot of Black people, a lot of Chicano people, a lot of working class people. Like they're not going to want to join an organization led by a 28-year-old grad student that desperately aspires to be a congressional staffer.
Yeah.
So DSA doesn't just have to be a colonized organization. It also has to be an organization of the working class. I'm talking about organically working class, like multi-generational working class. I'm not talking about people who can't find a job after college, so they work as a Starbucks barista.
Yeah.
So we have to actually recruit members of the multi-generational working class. And the only way to do that, I think, is to make this an organization that they feel comfortable in. Not everybody knows Robert's rules. Not everybody knows what all of these acronyms mean. Not everybody knows like what all of these political arguments are about. So we either have to teach them, or if they're pointless arguments, we need to stop having them.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think in terms of DSA being a more friendly space for working class people, and especially people of color and women and other marginalized identities, I think focusing on actually organizing is and fighting for causes that matter to people and matter to working class people of the multi-gender, multiracial working class is really important. Because I feel like when left groups become a sort of like reading circle or like theory bro space, that's when it becomes dominated by like highly educated white dudes who I think are deeply unserious about fighting for socialism. Specifically in YDSA, something that our chapter has done is trying to build identity caucuses sort of within our chapter. So we recently created the Socialist Feminist Committee as well as Socialist of Color Committee. And that's sort of like a space, both with representation on our steering committee, but also just a social space, but also a space to sort of plant the seeds for campaigns that our entire chapter will work on together. So yeah, I mean, I think that point is really interesting, and also that I think that connects to a longer term vision of making YDSA not just like a campus youth organization, but a larger youth organization that
Because not everybody goes to college.
Yeah, includes more folks who don't go to college. We've have a handful of folks who go to our local community college, and we've been like trying on and off to get a separate chapter to emerge at the community college. So we can have two YDSA chapters in Eugene, but you know it's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah, because it's kind of farcical for the youth branch of a socialist organization to be based almost exclusively at elite universities. Like, no, we should be based almost exclusively at community colleges. Or like, where is YDSA on the south side of Chicago? Where is YDSA in Little Haiti in Miami? Where is YDSA in rural areas? Well, that's one thing I really liked about Bobby's interview. Like they are like they're very keen on getting rural areas into the into the mix, because like the socialist movement, it's a very urban movement. I mean, it always has been, to be honest. Like Chicago, red Chicago back in the day. So like Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Appalachia, for fuck's sake, like the most fucked part of the country yet it has very little socialist organizing presence, because most of these socialists like me, and I don't know about you, are born and raised in cities and suburbs, and like me, I'm not going to no fucking country for what? It's Klansmen down there, it's snakes down there, it's people that don't have any teeth down there. That's the notion. So I guess our city slick. I guess Bobby wants to put all of us city slickers in the mines. I don't know. Maybe it'll
Possibly.
be good. Maybe it'll be good for us. Who knows? Why
That'll
is
be
Trump still walking around with this fucking gauze pack over his? It's not even bleeding. There's no blood there. It's like Nelly in the fucking Band-Aid.
yeah. Geez. The best are the memes comparing Castro's stats versus his.
Yeah, 900 assassination attempts versus 1. But going back to the whole guns thing, I think like a lot of DSAers, like they come from petty bourgeois backgrounds. Like they thought that guns were something that only were in ghettos or in foreign countries or something. So they see them or they hear about them and they get scared, because I guess they automatically think that they're going to jump up and bite them. Or like I've been hearing a lot of talk about like, oh, you're only going to hurt yourself. But like I have no compulsion to hurt myself. If I had a compulsion to hurt myself, I'm a big boy. I'm an adult. I know my mind. If I had any compulsion to hurt myself, I would not have a firearm in my house. So I don't know. It's like they want this nanny state. Like they want people to be told what is good for them. And here's the thing: like you're never ever going to take away guns from Americans, leftists, rightists, or centers. Like that's our number one fucking thing. You're not going to take away our guns. Okay. And leftists need to lean into this culture. Am I saying that we all need to become fucking range bros? No. Do we all need to become FUDs? No. But we need to understand in which we live, the society in which we live. Like that Second Amendment. A lot of people take that shit very, very seriously. But again, am I saying that DSA? Like my intention is not to turn DSA into a paramilitary organization. Like I'm not trying to turn us into the Partido Comunista del Perú. That's not going, because that's not going to work. And like 95% of y'all wouldn't make it.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting point about like the sort of like class background of DSA, in terms of having a lot of like petty bourgeois folks, and also your point about the sort of like rural versus city divide. I'm also like spent the vast majority of my life growing up in Portland, which is pretty semi-big city. But I think what's cool at like a large public school like University of Oregon is that there are a lot of folks from rural areas of Oregon that are a lot more generally conservative, but come to campus, and there's a lot of working poor folks that go to these larger public institutions, and I think that as a YDSA chapter we can actually engage in class struggle by making public education more accessible, pushing back against the increasingly privatized higher education, and like our labor campaign most directly connects with the working class base of our campus, the folks who are working to put themselves through college, to pay their rent, pay for their food. A lot of those folks are working directly on campus, and so labor campaigns are really, I think, a great way to building a YDSA chapter that is much more proletarian and working class, and pushing back against this sort of general state of being where DSA is somewhat petty bourgeois. And so I think, connecting with labor is a great way for us to sort of shift the trajectory of our socialist organization in a direction where it can actually fulfill its aspirations.
Why do you feel sorry for the firefighter in the Trump rally? Fuck that dude. He was at a Trump rally. But
is that the guy that
the Italian dude, Compradori or something? But why do you feel bad? You denounced the Houthis as theocratic, even though they're the only people that are like actually throwing down for Palestine. And you feel bad for this Trump supporting racist who probably refused to put out fires at black homes. Fuck that guy. Oh shit, where was I? Yeah, no Trumper gets any sympathy. Fuck these people. They want to make the world a shitty place. Did you watch the Republican convention last night?
No.
That's good.
Did you?
No, I did not. I was playing Matterlords trying to keep my poor peasants from starving.
That's
I was
part
unsuccessful.
of your time, possibly.
Yeah, I was unsuccessful. Are you a gamer, David? Kind of look like one.
I don't think I'm a gamer now. I didn't really have like a console growing up, so I mostly played like random PC games as a kid, but like stupid ones, nothing that's like actually hard.
Ah.
So no, not really.
So what do you think of the I would probably say the most important thing would be the MSR12. So there's a version of MSR12 that's actually coming up for you all's convention. So do you support that?
Wait, sorry, could you rephrase the question?
The MSR12, the anti-Zionist resolution.
Oh, that one. Okay, I see what you're
Yes,
saying.
oh, that one. It's number one, R1.
Yeah.
Do you support that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting resolution. I mean, I of course think that YDSA should be an anti-Zionist organization. And I think that, like you said, all the candidates being like very active in organizing encampments and stuff really show that we've been putting in the work to be anti-Zionist and fighting for Palestine. I think the sort of interesting direction of the resolution, I think, is possibly helping keep our electeds more accountable in the future, but it is just a YDSA resolution and not a larger DSA one. So I don't know. I honestly think I'm interested to see how this would be put in practice. Just because I haven't really heard of instances of YDSA specifically having like Zionists within our org, and it being like an issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess this is just making sure it doesn't become an issue. Like this is basically what I submitted. I submitted a resolution like this to my own branch. It's based on MSR12 from the last convention. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people like it, but I think that a lot of people also like have the same misgivings that you have. Like, what do you mean we don't have any Zionists in our branch? Right? I have never seen a Zionist, so it's like, well, for one, it's important because, as you know, DSA. I don't think YDSA, but like big DSA is like basically under boycott from like two of the biggest Palestinian solidarity organizations, the Palestinian Youth Movement and Within Our Lifetime. So I personally want those boycotts lifted because I remember when Within Our Lifetime was actually founded, and also PYM. Like these are people that I really want to work with. These are people that I've known for years or known of for years. And it's sad that I'm in an organization that cannot work with them in an official capacity. So I personally think that passing resolutions like R1 in every chapter and eventually at the national level is extremely important. And anybody that doesn't can go get fucked.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely think it's important that we like hold folks accountable in terms of being principled socialist in our org, and being anti-Zionist is of course one of those principles. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was like just generally in favor of it, not like super strongly, just because of those reservations that I have in the sense where I think there's a lot of stuff where it's like a cultural practice in terms of like similar to a lot of other like socialist principles. It's sort of like implied. But yeah, I think that's the main thing. Is just interested to see how this would be applied within the organization. But yeah, and in terms of making sure that there's like consistency in the sense of like, is there like consistency in terms of procedure, in terms of addressing comrades with problematic beliefs or behaviors, whether it's anti-Zionism, whether it's being Zionist and having to address that, or
I mean, Zionism isn't just the problematic behavior; it's literal support for genocide. Like, like Zionists are basically at this point, Zionists are basically on the same level as Nazis. So, if you wouldn't allow a Nazi, if you wouldn't allow a member of the Ku Klux Klan into your branch, you obviously should not allow open Zionists or even liberal Zionists, because some Zionists are very good at sneaking in that shit through concern about both sides. So, like, I've seen this happen. So we have to have a really, really hard line on this if DSA is going to be taken seriously in Palestinian solidarity circles.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. I guess definitely working in coalition with Palestinian organizations, because that's the only way, we're going to win, is in coalition with Palestinian identity groups and the Palestinian mass.
Yeah. Question for BRG. What is your opinion on the new Dr. Horn's book? I'm like, well, first of all, this thing is a fucking monster. It's like a Bible. And then second of all, like, he has the first page is literally, it's literally this. It's like 2 paragraphs, and then the rest of it is like all sources. The Horn has a very, very unique style of writing. I'll just leave it at that. But in terms of the content, it's very good. He's certainly, well, some of his stuff is for beginners, but this is certainly not a book for beginners because it's fucking huge, just like fucking Capital. But I like it so far. I like books that teach me shit that I haven't already know. Like I've got behind me also Black Against Empire. I've read through that like 5 times. It's probably the most annotated, highlighted, dog-eared book I own. And also I don't lend it out for that very reason. But Horn, I've actually gotten really, really into Horn this year. And I highly recommend everybody read his stuff. Because you will not come away disappointed. Did I hear about Grindr crashing out because of the convention? That happens every convention because of the Republican convention. A lot, like half these dudes, especially the younger dudes, are closeted. Okay, like that's well known. Everybody knows this. And yeah, Horn is not easy to read, but you can learn a lot from his books. Being too principled can close our eyes to endless possibilities. Sure, that is very true. Being too principled is called being a dogmatist. We should not be dogmatists, but also some of those possibilities and probabilities and opportunities are not good possibilities and opportunities. So you have to root yourself in theory. You have to study so that you know what is a good opportunity to take and what is a good, well, bad opportunity to take. AOC should have read more theory. Maybe she wouldn't be in the sad fix that she's in. But good luck on y'all's convention. And good luck to you, David.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I really like your vision for YDSA. Actually, like, I really don't have a favorite amongst you guys. Like, I've read all of you guys' little blurbs. I really don't have a favorite. Like, all of you all have organizing experience. All of you all know what the fuck you're doing. Whoever is elected to the NCC, I'm pretty sure you all do a damn good job. Like, YDSA is basically the vanguard of DSA right now. Like, big DSA has gotten, like, just fucking L after L after L after L. But you guys, who everybody wants to take money away from for some reason, are actually the vanguard. Like, you guys are the ones that the Palestinian activists actually like. Oh, yeah, they came to the encampment. They slept with us in the tent. All fucking until we were broken up. They stood toe to toe with us against the cops. So you all are probably our best ambassadors right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the praise, both in terms of all of your support for YDSA, as well as inviting me onto your stream. It's been fun.
I didn't invite you on. You invited yourself on. What was I going to say? What was I going to say? No, you're fucking French. I don't want any French people on my stream.
that was a chance.
Yeah, like every YDSA person, like I don't hunt people down. Every YDSA person has been like, "Hey, can I come on and talk about such and such?" And I'm like, yeah, come on. I have like people who, for whatever reason, like listening to what I have to say. Let's see if they'll listen to like listening to what you have to say. I mean, we've got almost 500 people watching this, most of which are from Twitter, most of which are probably hate following or hate watching me. But yeah, I mean, I have a moderately sized platform, and it's open to anybody that's actually trying to do something good and make socialism in our lifetime. So, anytime, comrades.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Have a good one.
Au revoir.